Good morning. Welcome to the 29th of, what is that? Of
December.
December. Thank you.
We're
Good
almost
morning.
there. Hey, Bill. We're almost
How,
there. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. I think Trent did.
Chicago had an excellent Christmas.
Yeah, I saw that nice game yesterday.
did they win?
We we lost yesterday, but we made it to the NFC Championship.
That's awesome. Dude,
So
So
we
I
made it.
to me, it's like a Super Bowl. To me, just being here is like a new Super Bowl already. So I'm already.
Well, I just don't count my eggs before the hatch kind of situation. There's a
did
lot of
you
good teams. There's a lot of good
There's
teams.
still a lot of good teams.
Yeah.
did you all see the Pittsburgh Cleveland game? I don't
Uh,
watch much football, but Pittsburgh should have won that game, but Cleveland's like 3-12 or something. Like they're terrible. And they held off the Steelers, and it was like really, because now I guess the Steelers have to play Baltimore for the championship. I guess that's
well,
how it works. And
well,
if
there's
they had
one more.
won,
There's one more playoff slot left. I think all
The
the rest of them have been taken. Is that right,
the
Manuel?
yeah, the Steelers lost to Baltimore last night.
not
Right.
Baltimore, Cleveland.
Oh, I didn't watch that one.
Yeah, Cleveland Browns. They'll play Baltimore next week.
So
Yeah,
that must be for the last wild card slot,
they
that
they
game.
That may
they
be
played.
it.
I thought they played the Ravens.
No, the
No,
Ravens played the Packers.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the game I.
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that wasn't a good game for me, but we don't have our quarterback, so we need to get him back.
Yeah, you guys are lost the quarterback.
Yeah,
But
hopefully he's back. He's in like concussion protocol or whatever.
Oh
Mhm.
well.
Thank you, Chicago Bears.
And then the temperature dropped to eight degrees last night.
That was here yesterday. I was telling Trent we it was 40-mile-an-hour winds, gusting to 60 with snow. And I said, all we did, we stayed in all day and we binge watched a show called Goliath for 7 hours with
Okay.
Billy Bob Thornton in it. So never haven't done that in forever. So anyway, well, let's get rolling. We got some things up last week, holiday week. 3.5 days of trading. It's a low over volume, especially on Friday. Same thing's going to happen this week. Most of the big boys and players are gone still this week, and so retail has their 2 weeks to. It's kind of like the Caddyshack when they have the what is it, the tournament for all the caddies. That's kind of what this market's like. This 2 weeks, you got all the
Yeah.
caddies running around instead of the pros, and so that's what's going to happen this week. I'm not planning on doing all that much. Volume's going to be lower. You're going to see some window dressing before the end of the year, tax harvesting for some people and some funds, but for the most part, it's going to be kind of slowish to deadish. Last week, the Dow was Friday down 20 points. I mean, really flat. The Nasdaq down 20, the S&P down 2 for the year so far. The Dow's up about 14 and a half. Nasdaq's up 22, and the S&P's up 18. Again, this week I'll have a half day on the 31st, which is New Year's Eve, and then the first will be closed all day. Not much. We got ADP employment figures, minutes from the FOMC meeting, pending home sales this week, which no one will be around to really look at them or care. No real notable earnings, which you would expect. We've had really what I've been watching. I didn't do much last week. I've been watching really the precious metals. You had gold, silver, platinum, all at record highs. They're pulling back today. When you go up as much as these have gone up, you're going to have some profit taking. Again, we have some low volume out there going on also. So we take a look here, see what, oops, get my screen up. Trent, can you put my screen up if we could? Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Oh, thank you. There we go.
Mhm.
Let's see what CNBC is telling us. We're down. Okay, so again, slower week, lower volume, less traders, less investors, just cleaning up for the year end. That's what I'm going to do. Plan what I'm going to do next year. What else we got down here? Oops, nothing. So I must hit the wrong button. All right, so let me stop that. Really not much in there. I'll get rid of this one and pull this one back up. It'll let me. There we go. And let me get back to this. Sorry, guys. A little slow, a little rusty from not doing this for a while. Okay, so pull this up. It'll come up for me. Come on. There we go. So I'm just looking. This is just the ETF heat map from last week. And you can see where
It's still loading.
oh, it is.
There you go. Okay.
Okay. So it's the heat map from last week, and it just shows your indices. You can see we're up. They talk about a Santa Claus rally, and on average between Christmas and New Year's and 2 days after the major markets go up 1%. Well, we got that last week. You can see the SPY, the Qs, the Dow. So, I mean, that 1%, maybe that was significant 20 years ago, but we moved that in a day, day and a half anymore. But you see everything was kind of, for the most part up, especially up here in the commodities, gold and silver. Look at silver up 19.8% last week. SLV gold up 4.56%. Silver miners up almost 10%. So a lot of that in the metals. Crypto was up a little. Just international up. We can go back and come back and let's just look at the Dow here, or the S&P. It'll come up for me. There we go. Full screen. So this is just last week on the S&P. So you can see we had good on the mags, technologies and softwares. Low volume usually means institutions are out. We have a lot of retail people come in and they buy the dips and see prices in there, and they're not looking at the volumes, and the volumes are down. So bid and ask spreads, and we've gone through all that before. So again, we're expecting about the same this week too. So I want to talk a little bit about just not much happened as far as I'm concerned last week, but I did watch the metals market, and around December 17th, I brought up that JP Morgan, if you've been around the markets long enough, you remember the 80s when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market. And then we had some other blips in there too, but they used leverage and they got squeezed out. The really, companies and banks like JP Morgan have controlled silver prices forever. And I said, like on the 17th, a story came up. I was wondering, why is silver doing this? Okay. And then, when gold is kind of going up, but kind of sideways. And then I found that story about JP Morgan. And JP Morgan, around the 17th, they completed a complete reversal on its silver trade. So it took off all its massive shorts after 20 years, and then they moved into a heavy long position. And then what they did is they took all their physical silver, claimed it, and put it in their own vault, which is like 760 million ounces, which is about half of every year's production. And I thought that was strange, and that's when I said, you watch silver, and you watch some of the miners, and here's a couple I brought up. AG was a miner I brought. Here's where we kind of started talking about it over here. You can see it's kind of come up and hit its intermediate resistance level, and we're going to open up right back down here on the 9. We're going to have some pullback today in metals, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. And then, we looked at Pass, which is another silver miner. You can see it's going to pull back down. It's rolling right along this upper Bollinger, but not much on a technical. And you can see that. Look at the volumes. We saw a lot of volume going down, except for Friday. You saw the volumes going up. And then I said, instead of silver, that you might want to check out, PSLV. This is They actually have the silver, and it's in the mine. It's in their vaults. It's in the Bank of Canada. It's audited. You can take it out in silver if you own this. If you have over, I think, 10,000 ounces, and you can see the volume here also. Was up on Friday. So there was a lot of activity on Friday in the silver market. We're going to come right back down to the Bollinger Band on this one too. So when you think about it, what's going on in the silver market and in some of the other markets too, palladium and we've had other people bring up platinum and palladium and copper. It's really driven by industrial demand in China. China and in the United States, we have a Samsung factory down in Texas, a battery factory that's having trouble finding silver. And what silver does, you can have paper silver and you can have actual physical silver. And what we're seeing is an imbalance between the paper silver and the physical silver because over the last 5-6 years, the yearly production of silver in the world has not met the yearly demand in the world because of manufacturing in EVs, in solar panels, in phones. And now we've got AI and data center build outs with chips and GPUs and all that. They all use silver because it's the most highly conductive metal out there, most efficient. And so you've seen a drawdown in these vaults. You have vaults in London, the main vaults in London, one COMEX in New York, and then you have Shanghai. And you can go into CME and you can see these drawdowns. And over the weekend, I was talking with Trent and some others. I'm like, look at these drawdowns in December just on COMEX. So the physical silver appears to not be anywhere near the high inventories that it used to be. And so if you have a silver contract normally is for 5,000 ounces. And now right now it costs you about $400,000. You have a silver contract. It's a contract that I'm going to buy silver at this price and I want it delivered in this day. Now, a lot of people don't get it delivered. They just sell out and try to take the profits out of that. Same with oil, any commodities kind of that way. But now they're actually wanting delivery of silver and stacking up because of the demand in manufacturing and especially in China. And so that's caused this imbalance between paper and actual physical silver. And if you look at the prices that we see today, the prices went way down in New York and London. And well, why is that? So I was digging into it this morning. Well, there's the COMEX or CME raised the margin over the weekend that you have to have for these contracts, and it's been raised by 25%. And so what's happened is those who don't have the money for the margins are getting blown out of their positions, causing the price to come down. So if you don't have enough, it's like having a margin call. Only the margin call is, instead of $20,000 per contract, you owe us $25,000 per contract, and come up with the money, or we're going to blow you out. And I think that's what's happening right now, and you're seeing that come down. Not to mention silver and these commodities have gone up so much that you're seeing a lot of profit taking before year end. What else we got? Vault drains, and spreads. So again, there's a lot of interesting things going on in silver. This is an actual, owning silver ETF right here. This is where we decided. I brought it up, and said, well, this may be one that you might want to get in. Now it went up above the upper Bollinger. It's going to come back down. You got to be careful and look into what's happening. But the volume was up. When we're seeing downs days where the volumes are down. But again, we're going to see a lot of these palladiums and silvers. Let me look at a palladium here and see. I'd like to show you how these things. Look at this. This is platinum. Okay, and it's really screamed up. It was really outside the upper Bollinger Band. Now it's coming right back down. It's going to open right on the Bollinger Band. So look at these volumes you've had. So when we talk about money chasing value, this is where it has gone. Last week, especially when the volumes were down, you saw a lot of the money come into the metals, and now you're seeing some profit taking. But with silver, I'm still going to watch silver because on January 1st, China is putting in an export ban where you need a license to export any silver out of China. And China is a big silver foundry. They process silver. So if I mine silver, I send it to China, make it into silver bars, and then send it back out to, one of the exchanges or private buyer. And now that you have to have a license, so they're going to put a restriction on that. And again, we have the margin requirements went up also. So there's a lot going on in silver and in metals. Make sure you go and do your own due diligence on it. But that seemed to be where my attention was last week in between uh,
Hey,
celebrating Christmas. But
hey, Mark, there's a couple like videos like on TikTok and Twitter or X that are going around talking about on Friday that iShares submitted to the SEC an amendment called a force majeure, I think it's called. It's
right,
French.
yep, yeah,
Okay, so basically saying that because of so much demand on SLV, they can instead of paying you out in silver if you requested it, that they can pay you out in cash, but they can determine what the price of
right,
the price is.
yep.
Okay, everything I've looked into, it's saying that's just AI. It's made up. I went on the SEC website looking for anything. I couldn't find anything. So if you're seeing that, question it for sure because um, I think it could be misleading.
Thanks. However, we talked about it 2 weeks ago that SLV does have that in. If you go and look at the prospectus for SLV, it is
Hmm.
considered a paper silver ETF, and then they can actually do that if they want to do that. Now, whether they've
Yeah,
done it or not, I don't know. You've said they haven't, so
yeah,
but they can, which is why I went to PSLV because they actually have the silver and it's audited. And again,
yeah.
do your own due diligence.
Well,
Uh,
this is one of those things that I think it was back in the 1920s or 30s when the government confiscated gold or something like that or locked in the gold price.
they confiscated it. Yeah.
Yeah, so be aware that there is that power to um take away your asset in a sense.
Yeah, they would lose their credibility on that
They
front.
can,
Or yeah.
they can, well, I don't know. They've done it before, on gold.
So that margin increase, when did you read that? Because they've done that recently too. But the news that you just spoke about, is that within the last 24 hours or so? When did
over
that
the
happen?
week, over the
Over the
weekend.
weekend? Okay,
Yep.
okay. I didn't know they were going to pull the trigger on that because that's a
Yeah.
tool. That's a tool
Yeah.
to
It's a
be used.
tool to
Yep.
control pricing.
Hmm.
And normally that'll bring pricing down. But that's normally during speculation. And one thing that's different, and Paul, you know this because you follow AI and technology, silver is being used by a lot of these companies, these high tech companies, and the demand is high and the supply is low.
Yeah, I've
And that's
done research. Yeah, that's one of the drivers. And plus, it's a hedge against inflation. There's a lot of different things that are occurring to drive silver up.
well, that
So,
they will tell you in silver. The mainstream media doesn't bring up any of the supply or anything that I've seen. They'll tell you, oh, it's because the Fed lowered interest rates. Well, we've lowered interest rates before, and it hasn't caused silver to do this. So
yeah.
it's more than that. And if you dig deep, you're going to find all these reasons. The
Your
vault
silver
brain.
coins are worth more money now too, by the way.
Well, yeah, they're all worth
Yeah,
$80 or
yeah,
whatever. And we were talking about
yeah.
that. The other thing I did is I went out to some dealers, like JM Bullion and all those, just to see. And
Hmm.
yeah, the coins are like $100 sometimes on these liberties and silver dollars now, $100. And
Wow.
back before the summer they were at 45.50. And then you
Yeah,
see a lot of them, they're sold out or unavailable.
right. I understand too. The silver's worth more than unless you got a special date.
Right,
It doesn't make any difference. Like I seen a video where a guy was cutting up his proof sets because they were
right,
just, normal uh dates that weren't worth anything, but they were
right,
silver, and the silver's actually worth more than the coin itself.
right. They
So
call it
they're
the melt
just,
price.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So if
that's
you go into
occurring a
a
lot.
if you go
Yeah.
into a dealer, make sure you know what your coins are. I was telling the guys over the weekend, I have a lot of coins from the 1800s, the Liberty coins, and that's what Paul's talking about. Those are worth more than the melt price because of the rarity of the date. And there's coin collectors and there's silver stackers, and then
Mm.
you got to be careful, like Paul said there, because you can go in if you got a questionable dealer, they may just give you melt price. So make sure you do your research on that if you're trading your silver off. Now,
And
if you have blanks or like rounds they call them that aren't that aren't currency, not like silver dollars or silver half dollars. Those are just normally worth whatever the melt price is, and people store those along with little bars or grams or whatever.
Ingots.
Go ahead.
Ingots is what they're referred to. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can store those too. But again, it's interesting to see how that whole market. We've been watching it all year because we look at silver every day. We look at silver and gold, and it's remarkable how it's just taken off. And we'll see what happens. But December 31st is when the contract expired. They're going to have to deliver some silver from my understanding. I'm not a silver expert or a metals expert. I did a lot of looking at it, over the last 3 weeks. It seems like they're going to have to there's going to be a lot of delivery scheduled for the end of the month. We'll see if they have enough physical silver to do it. Otherwise, they might have to do what Trent said, if it's like an SLV and offer you a money that could be less than what the price of silver is. So interesting times, especially.
I thought, Mark, I'm sorry.
Found it interesting
I thought that if they don't
over,
deliver
Christmas holiday. Go ahead.
I thought if they don't deliver, then that goes up against the banks.
That can be that's like
that's what I read.
Default. That's like defaulting on your loan.
It's a default.
Payment.
Yeah. In other words, it's a court. They're calling for the silver. They don't deliver. It's a default specifically on the 3 largest banks. That's what I read.
Yeah, JP Morgan went out of their short. They have, like I said, 760 million ounces sitting in their vault. So they might have pulled a fast one on some of the other bullion banks who are still short, and those are the ones that are going to be really screwed. So I think over the holiday, I think over the weekend,
it's almost like
the holiday,
an FDIC.
What's that?
Go ahead, Bob.
My understanding is, just to clarify, it's like an insurance call. When someone defaults, it's on the 3 largest banks. It's like an FDIC claim against them, an insurance claim against them, and they have to up the money for it. And that's, I think, what you're talking about, delivering cash for the silver if they don't deliver.
Well, yeah, for SLV for sure. But if you're in a silver contract through a bank, I don't know if they have that same clause that Trent was talking about. I know silver does, SLV does, but if they don't, I think they're on the hook for that, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a default, and they have to come up with it, or they're in trouble. So, but I'm not worried about Chase or, JP Morgan or, if they have that in the vault and it's been audited, then they should be fine, right?
Well, yeah, and I think, they went from short to long, so now they're on the other side of the trade, which they pulled a rug pull on some of these other bullion banks and didn't tell them about it. So some of these other big banks, I think there's 5 major bullion banks in the world, and some of them are still short. And so I think what happened today with these margin calls was to try to flush out and bring that price back down, which we're seeing come back down right now. But we'll see if it can last, because when I looked this morning, there's an arbitrage difference. I think COMEX went down to 75.81, and it was up to 79 when it closed last weekend. Shanghai went up to 83.44. So we're at,
but there's still not enough silver.
Right. But what I'm saying is, normally arbitrage evens those out to within $1 over history, and the reason it's not is because there's not silver. They can't provide the silver, and so Shanghai's paying more money. And so normally, if you see that, you'd go buy it in New York, at $75, ship it to China and sell it for $84, but they don't have the silver to do that, which is why the price keeps getting wider. So you're right.
Yeah, so that delta typically doesn't happen.
What's that?
That delta typically it's another piece that makes this really out of the ordinary. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So, it's that arbitrage piece, and normally it's about $1 on most, between the markets.
Okay, I'm
from
gonna
my,
hold my silver then. I'm
I
gonna
would
hold
hold
it.
your silver.
Yeah, I'm holding it.
I'm holding mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, watch
Oh,
it
I'm
close
holding mine
because
too.
yeah, watch it close. Well, I have some of the other precious metals, but watch it closely to see if it how it behaves because we'll see how, like to your point, how
Well,
strong is this leverage?
the predictions are it's definitely 100 for sure, and 150 into next year. They're saying, the first in January. That's what the predictions are, and I've read numbers as high as 300, but I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. This is a way for them to drive the number down. What they're doing,
Right.
and
Yep.
but that's going to be short lived. If you don't have enough
Yeah.
Yeah.
silver, it's going to go back up. So it's an opportunity, not financial advice. It's an opportunity to buy.
Today could be a good pullback day, you know.
It's
And
down
again,
seven.
not financial advice, but you know,
It's it's already
yeah,
down 7, almost 8% today. The
yeah, but it
futures
was up,
are.
you know, like I said, what, 19% last week alone.
Yeah, Friday was
So
9%.
yeah, and I think for the whole week it was 19 for the total.
But to your point, they don't. Silver is in limited supply, and
Absolutely.
that's a tangible product that's used on a lot of manufacturing fronts. There's
Yep.
a lot of things that are driving the cost of silver up.
Yeah. And it's mostly supply and demand. And because I think, Paul, and don't quote me on this, I think we have our global production over the last 5 years has been about 800 million ounces. And I think our manufacturing alone, our demand, including retail jewelry, is over 1.3 billion a year. And we've been doing that for 5 years.
Right. So
So
Doesn't
these
it
vaults, these
doesn't it
vaults
seem
are emptied out. You can go to CME and look at all the inventory and see how they've been coming out. I did that over the weekend. It's amazing.
doesn't it
There
seem
was a whole
odd
list of
that
them.
doesn't it seem odd that though this has made such a big move since the 1st of December?
That's what got me interested, Trent. I'm like, why is this? Why is silver especially taking off over gold? And I know why platinum and palladium are because they're just as rare. The other thing I found out, not being an expert, silver, 75% of silver comes from mining other things like copper.
yeah,
So it's a byproduct of that. So it's
yeah.
not like you can just go out and mine more silver. I mean, there are silver mines out there like AG and PAAS. They're small though. So it's hard to say, hey, let's go ramp up. Well, you got to ramp up your copper production to get more silver. That's what I'm understanding. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, from what I understand, silver's a byproduct and copper's mined much more heavily. So it's
Absolutely.
not like they can't, you can't say, well, we got to go mine more copper because of the price of silver.
Right.
Everybody's scratching their heads right now. What are we going to do? And I think
The other
this was expected. This margin, I read about this, that's one of the tools that you could expect to drive the cost down today.
The other thing out there is that because these manufacturers like a Samsung and these guys could not find production out of the vaults, they went directly to the mines and they bought
Yeah.
up like the next 4 or 5 years of production on these mines. And so they're not
Right.
going to the vaults. They're going to go directly to the manufacturer after they're processed. If they can get out of China, because they got to send it to China, most of it to get processed into silver. So
It just seems we've
Yep.
known, like on a production side of things, we've known that is the demand for it is increasing and will increase, but then all of a sudden it's like it just skyrockets
yeah.
in a month. And it's like, to me, not to be too conspiracy theorist, there's something else I think going on. It's just a matter of what it is, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, I think, God, I've got like 9 different things that are causing this to happen. Usually it's like, holy crap. Normally it's like one or two. I mean, but look
Yeah.
at the volume. Look at the volume just on Friday, 139 million, where the day before was 58 million. Let me change
I
this
see,
over to a monthly chart and see what the month looks like.
I see
So
11
this
million
is
this morning.
so this has been building for a few years now. Um, I I've read and seen a lot of videos on silver when no one was looking at it, and that there are guys out there that follow precious metals, and they've been talking about silver now for 2 years,
Hmm.
Yep.
and And I tell you the truth, from a lot of those videos, I accumulated a substantial amount based on the information they have been providing. And I just stuck it in my safe and said, we'll see where it goes. If not, I can always dump it for what it is. But, here we are. Exactly what they said was going to happen, that there was not enough silver to supply all the manufacturing going on, and it's come
Yep.
true now.
And JP Morgan knew this.
So I'm not
JP
surprised.
Morgan was doing what you were doing. They were accumulating, and their average cost on their 760 million ounces, from what I was able to attain, was $25 an ounce. Okay. Then they switched up. They used the short to keep the price down, and then they switched it after they bought enough. And now the price, look at what that $25 to what, $76 is now this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Per ounce.
It's 3 times.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, I didn't, I'm not trading this week, so I didn't have anything to show you, but I know a lot of you guys have been watching metals for a long time, but it's in a fascinating series of events right now in the metals market for sure.
It says, I see another thing, monetary policy, anticipation of interest rate cuts by the Fed. Is that another thing that drives it?
I think that would be very, very small, Paul, because we've had interest rate cuts before and we haven't seen it do this, like in the magnitude that we're seeing,
Okay.
I think it's supply and demand. I think it's industrial consumption. I think it's this paper versus physical. The physical, because of the supply is down, all of a sudden, all these people with paper silver that want their silver can't get it. Okay. They were like saying, an example is, if you go to the bank and try to take out $10,000, they don't have $10,000, or you have to wait 2 weeks to get it now.
Yeah.
Because they don't have it there.
You gotta order it ahead of time.
Nah. Yeah. I did that on Friday with no problem.
Bob
The
does it every day. Well, they know you, Bob. They know Bob. So Bob's coming. You better have some cash ready.
Bob's like the Donald Trump of New Jersey. He's like the Sopranos of New Jersey.
I could see the small banks may be an issue, but the large banks, when you're dealing with JP Morgan or HSBC or some of these larger banks, cash is not a problem.
I think it's different for you, Bob.
They just report you.
You're a business owner. You have probably more cash flow and going through these accounts and higher balance. If you're a regular guy, like I've known people have tried to go in and get it out, they've had to wait a couple weeks. Just regular people with accounts.
Yeah, I could understand what you're saying, but yeah, because there's so much flowing through, they want me as a customer because they want my deposits.
Exactly.
Right.
So the takeaway from this is we visualize precious metals going up, specifically silver.
I think so. Now, again, not financial advice, but
yeah, I understand.
Just from what we can
seeing.
all go out and look at, I think today's going to be a good. You can't go up forever. You got to take some pressure off, and I think we're seeing that today. What's happening, along with this margin squeeze, that's really what the cause is, in my opinion. From looking at it, I got up at 4 this morning to look at it. I'm like, it's got to be this margin squeeze, and then when you've got China going to regulate it, you got to have a license to take it out of China after January 1st. That's going to slow down the global trade of silver.
But that margin squeeze is a very
you.
clue. That's a clue. That's an indication that there's a concern about, the raising price. Right?
I think the indication is that China and Shanghai were paying,
a higher
$10 to $12 over what it is in New York. And then I think also when you go to the retail dealers like you or I, Paul, and we go and look at silver coins, I think I looked yesterday, it was like $10 to $15 over spot, which is normally like 3 or 4 over spot, if even. Isn't that what you?
Because they know it's going to go to 100, so they buy them at 90, right? When it was 81, they were offering 90.
Yep.
Why? Because
Yep.
they know it's going to go to 100, and they're going to pick up 11, 12% right on
Yep.
if they flip it, right?
And it's demand too, because I think some of these dealers are like, we might not be able to get inventory anymore, just like
Right,
everybody else.
Yeah, you have
right.
accumulators that are accumulating, but if you're just a dealer looking to make money, right? It's a good flip, right?
Well, that's how they make their money.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here's another thing. Look at how this correlates with the US dollar.
Yeah, it's
If
another thing.
you've been watching, if you go back to
Oh, there's the dollar chart right there.
now, if you go back to the 21st of November, where dollar peaked out, I'm looking at the DXY
This is
version
the
of the
tradable
dollar.
here. This is the
That
tradable. Yeah.
yeah, the dollar started falling, S&P started going up, gold took off, silver took off. Well, excuse me, silver took off, gold was already in the process of going up since September. But now you got the dollar, with the dollar's up just a little bit today, not much.
Look how I dropped though last week.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you see this spike. So looking at these correlations to the dollar, to the S&P, to silver, to gold, to anything, it's like, okay, if the dollar starts moving higher, these other assets start going lower. So a strengthening dollar is actually negative for equities. And we're seeing it today. Now, granted, the dollar's not moving a ton, but
There's
it
less
is,
volume today.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is showing signs of possibly pivoting higher. So will that put pressure on all three of those in essence? And I think that's something to take into account as you're looking at things is how does that, correlate?
I have traded.
How do these things correlate to the US dollar? If the US dollar were to strengthen, how would that hurt equities? How would that hurt precious metals, that kind of thing? And
I
it can
think
be a
Trump is a
leading
Trump. I
indicator.
think Trump's trying to weaken the dollar to make our dollar.
Well, of course,
Yeah,
more
exactly.
attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at historically going back when the dollar does weaken, I mean, I remember it was down in the 80 cent range back in during the dot-com bust, and that became the catalyst to the equity market starting to go higher. Whereas as the dollar strengthens, it pushes pressure on equity markets as well as precious metals markets and that kind of thing. So it can be a little indicator to you what is coming. Now, the dollar has basically been on a decline
Yes.
for quite a while. Let's see here. Hold on a second. I'll share this with you. Do, 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 do.
Yeah. Since about, geez, last December.
Yep. All right. So if you look at the dollar since January of this year,
Yeah.
it has declined. And what has the equity market done? It's gone up. If I go back quite a ways here, let's just go to a weekly chart. The dollar in 84 strengthened into 85. What happened then? I think equity markets went down at that point. I'll split the chart here. Put SPX here. And let's go back to, here you go. $1 rises here. Equity markets start to fall into 3.3. Well, dollar strengthens into 22. September of 22. Equity markets start to take off again. Let's see how far back we can go here. Come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
But
This
I'm
is what
thinking this is
happens
right
with,
up your alley, Mark, about Bitcoin. You're seeing supply and demand,
Yeah, I think you're right.
except
yeah.
this is, I'll say it, for me, just a little bit more tangible because I don't really understand Bitcoin, but
That's okay.
silver, yeah.
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 Silver, I think anyone that's probably our age, Paul, or older, has gotten a bag of silver from inheritance somewhere from one of our relatives who lived through the Depression, and
Yeah.
silver was real money. I mean, I got inherited some coins that are really nice. I,
Hmm.
My
and
father was a waiter, and as a waiter, he collected when he got his tips. We're talking, for 60 years, 70 years ago, he would keep all the coins, all the silver coins, and then he just, to your point, he gave it to me as an inheritance, and
yeah,
it added to my coin collection, a bunch of silver
I
coins.
I still look when I get a pocket full of change or something. I still look at the quarters to see if they're before what
Yeah,
64, 65, and
64, you're old school. Yeah, wow.
yeah.
So you
And
look at
those are
this.
worth at least, what back at the early part of last year, a quarter was worth $4, a silver quarter. You think what it's worth now?
Oh, it's more worth. Yeah, it's worth more.
Yeah, twice that at least.
I think a
So if you
beat
look,
up half right now goes for $35. If it's a half dollar, it could be in any shape.
Yeah,
Some
but I'm right. I think I'm not planning on getting rid of any of mine right now. I know Bob said he wasn't. Um,
Well, for me, it's my father gave it to me, so it's more.
right. Well, it
Yeah,
says
yeah,
sentimental.
yeah, exactly. I'll give it to my daughter.
so if you look at the correlation of dollar versus the S&P 500 going back to, was it 81 or so, and the rise in the dollar, this isn't really a great example there, but going into 96, this is the S&P on the bottom, dollar on the top. You see dollar rise. Not really a good correlation, is it? No. Dollar falls, S&P rises. So there is that correlation, but the dollar, if you look at it, going back, as far back as, 81, the dollar has really been below most of the time, 115, so basically 15%. So it's worth a dollar 15 versus a dollar, whereas you get back here into 2002, the average here has been below a dollar. So the lower the dollar value, the higher the S&P has gone. Well, question is are we going to see a devaluation of the dollar, or are we going to see a increase in dollar? And is this precious metals flip flop? I mean, is this giving us signs um, of something to come in the future? A lot of talk about stable coins. So what
Yeah.
backs stable coins? It could be a commodity basket of precious metals. It could be crypto. It could be oil and gas. It could be a lot of things. And so I don't know. It's very interesting what we're seeing here,
I
for
think it
sure.
all goes back to when the Ukraine war started and the United States and Europe confiscated or put holds on treasury reserves from Russia. And that
Yeah.
caused Russia, China, uh, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, these countries to form BRICS. And then you saw the accumulation of gold in Russia, China, and all these countries.
Yeah.
Something, and then our debt is skyrocketed, devaluing our dollar. Okay, I think it's for me, it's in going back and brushing off the dust off my economics degree in my head. That's just a bad deal, man. When your dollar's devaluing, and then you go back to the history of everyone who was a reserve currency, whether it was, Portugal or England or the Romans or the Egyptians, they all
Hmm.
devalued their currency and ended up in ruin. So that's not saying that's going to happen now, but that's pretty good record of history.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just find it interesting that all this is happening. And again, we're going to have a short week where markets are closed and a lot of people are gone, that all this is happening. Interesting. I don't know. Not trying to put on Trent's tinfoil hat, but I sure feel like I should.
Well,
This
and
morning,
I think the other side of it is, we've talked about how the Fed is now becoming the short-term U.S. Treasury market by buying up, was it 45 billion dollars worth of treasury,
Oh,
short-term debt,
yep.
and they've got about 9 trillion of that is going to mature next year. They're running this race to keep yields down, versus and keep them down, because that keeps our economy going. That keeps that mechanism going. Um, It's interesting. We have a neighborhood over here that St. Joe, which is the largest landowner in the Panhandle of Florida, publicly traded company, I think under Joe is the name. And they sectioned off a super high-end neighborhood. So the homes start at 4 million. I walked the house over the weekend just out of curiosity, and this house is they bought the lot. The builder bought 4 lots at a 500,000 because it was a lottery. He's built 4 homes. One of them he was going to move into, according to the real estate agent, but the one I looked at was the one he was going to move into. But he decided here recently he was going to just try to sell it because he's moving to Nashville. And I was like, well, why would you build a $8 million home and do all this stuff to it? Great, it is a beautiful home, but now you're trying to unload 4 homes in this market. What's happening there? And I got it. She goes, well, she was didn't really, she goes, well, I don't know, or they just, maybe it's a job move. And that's what she said. I was like, a job move? You got
Sounds
all
like the
this
realtor
money.
in The Big Short.
It does. It's just what's a gully? We're just in a gully, and what I heard there was this is somebody trying to unload because the debt, because it was probably financed, it was what do they call those when you're building a home? The financing
Oh,
of it?
bridge loan.
Yeah. All of a sudden he has to refinance and he can't afford it. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden now he's got 4 homes in this neighborhood and they're all priced over, $6 to $10 million homes. And they're beautiful looking. But I think this is one of those things. The high end market is now getting squeezed. And the house has been on the market for, I think, over 4 months now.
So did you put in
So
an offer?
yeah, I pulled out my wallet and I got $100 bill in there and I said, I'd like to buy an option on this.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
You know,
I think the other thing that we didn't mention, Trent, was on Friday, the repo market, I think, got pulled for $20 billion or so. Some bank had to go to the repo market. I don't know if it has to do with silver or something else and pull out 20 billion bucks.
so I that was mentioned earlier this over the weekend, and I got to looking into that when looking at the behavior and then the timing of that. You know, I got it, and it's on a Friday. So a lot of
Friday
times
on a
you see
holiday
these
Friday.
spikes.
Yeah.
It's a holiday Friday. So you see these spikes in this market, the repo market. Let me see if I can bring a chart up
Yeah, I
here
think
of
you have
it.
a chart of it. That would be interesting to see.
Um, what is this? The reserve balance, that's SOFR rate. SOFR rate, which is the rate that is financed at, is at 3.66%, which is awfully low. So it's affordable to finance that at. So let me just bring this down to reality here. So this is the SOFR rate, and here's the thing about the SOFR rate. The SOFR, there's a SOFR and there's the LIBOR. LIBOR is gone, basically. It's no longer used. I remember that when I bought my first house, I could have picked the 10-year US Treasury or LIBOR. Now it's just 10-year US Treasury that the mortgage rate is based on. But SOFR basically is the overnight lending rate that a bank would pay to borrow money, basically. So if I look at this is the securities sold. That's not what I want. Here it is. Okay. So this is the total securities purchased by the Federal Reserve. And this is Friday, right here on the 26th. So you had a spike of right at 17.25 billion. But you've seen this as well as Monday on the December 15th. You saw it back here in November, major spike on October 31st. And if we go back, this activity here recently has
Yep.
been like sort of out of the ordinary since July of 2020. And now recently you're having that. So when I
Go
look at
back
this,
to look at 2028. I mean, we are higher than the levels in some of those 2028s or 2008. I mean,
oh
2008.
yeah,
Look at we're higher than
it was, yeah. And you look at that period of time, what was happening.
yeah.
I can only go back here to
No, but I mean,
'03.
but look at just compare the highs of over there to where we are now. And something's
Yeah,
happening. And what this means, what Trent's saying about total securities purchase. So I'm a bank who needs cash reserves. I take my treasury bills or whatever and I pledge them as collateral to the Federal Reserve. And then they send me money, $20 billion or whatever, so that I have that money in my reserves to meet my debts. That's what that was all about. You don't go
yeah.
here unless you're in trouble.
Well, it isn't trouble. It's just liquidity, you know. And that's the thing is,
That's trouble.
from
It's trouble.
if I go
If you're
back
not
to July of 2020 through here, well, the first time it happened was October or September of 24, and then again this year in June, yeah, July, and then all the activity this past quarter. So it's very odd that we're seeing this. I'm curious if we're about to see this kind of event in this area, or are we going to see a 2019 to 2020 2020 event when it comes to this? Is this move, couple this with the silver, the gold move, this other thing, some of these regulations coming out from China that Mark indicated, is this all building up into something bigger? And I don't know. It's who knows? I guess time
It's
will
a
tell, right?
maybe yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see all this come together, kind of at the same time. And so again, well, I'm going to keep watching it. I think it's fascinating. Um, just be aware uh,
Hmm.
in your portfolios and in your trades, and just know that it's out there. But it sure is weird to see. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm going to keep watching it this week, as we take another holiday week and see what happens. And we'll know more on the 31st and the 1st, what happens, especially in
Yep.
metals, silver. So we got
That
to
is
talk
true.
about tomorrow, guys. We need to update our next year's forecast. So everyone needs to pick a stock and get it over to Trent so we can put that together for January, early January. Um, and we'll go over tomorrow probably. We'll go over the charts of how we did this year on the six
Yeah.
month and the whole year.
Sounds good. Um, yeah, so bring your stock ideas. I'll remind you on the morning newsletter as well as the invite to the Morning Edge tomorrow. We'll be done for the year tomorrow after tomorrow's show when it comes to the Morning Edge. So take some time off. I will update the morning newsletter and some of the different Kerry's tell sheet along with the other attachments that we put in there in market news, but we won't be having this show. I have to verify Friday is the 2nd, isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, what Kerry's doing. So if he's gonna do a show or a presentation or show on the 3 o'clock on Friday. I don't know yet. I'll verify that. If so, you'll get an invite to that, and I'll let you all know that as well. Other than that, is there anything else we want to hit upon before we close up here?
Okay.
All right,
Maybe I'll go back to binge watching Goliath.
there you go.
Yeah.
Did
All
you try
right, well,
Landman? Did you try
Yeah.
Landman?
Yeah. I
I'm
got
in the
that going too, but Goliath has Billy Bob in it too. And that Jan started watching it. So we binge watched that. And I kind of got in our way of our Landman one, but he's as
It's
good.
only
I
good
don't
for
know if
two
you've seen,
seasons though. Did you
yeah,
see how many seasons you in?
I'm in the middle of one.
Yeah,
I'm in
it
the
gets shitty after into the second one. It gets
Does
You
it?
know, Paul, it's
yeah.
interesting. We're in the second season. We started last night. We watched the latest episode, which came out yesterday, and I just I I don't know. It is. I think you're. It's not. It's just slowing. It's like losing its flair. Like the first season was great, and then now it's like
Of which one?
the second season of Landman.
Oh
He's
yeah,
agreeing.
I'm
He's
talking
agreeing
about
with
Goliath.
he's agreeing
Oh,
with it. Oh,
Right, right.
Goliath. We're
Goliath. Yeah, it's just he's drunk and he's a lawyer, so that's a lot of fun to watch, but he sobers up and it gets boring.
Or you can go to a
Well, I can
Yep.
see it. Well,
local
now
bar and
thanks for
see that.
telling me. I've been binge watching all day.
Well, you'll know what I mean. You'll see it coming.
You're supposed to say spoiler alert before you say that. It's like turn my
Well,
volume.
yeah. There's other shows up. The Beast Within Me. There's a bunch of other shows out there that are really good.
I only get
That
to
you,
do it in the winter when we're stuck inside because it's 400 degrees below zero outside. So,
All right. We'll
all right, guys.
wrap it up there. We'll see you tomorrow. Bring your stock ideas.
Yep,
We want to
just
hear
one
them. We
per
want to put
person.
them up.
Yeah, one per
And,
person since we got so many people.
And we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a
Yep.
great morning and afternoon.
See you guys tomorrow.
peace out.
Take
Thanks
care.
very much.
Out.
Thanks,
Y'all
guys.
take care.
Later.
Ooh,
Thank
wow.
you. Thanks.
Let it ride, man.